Hi, welcome. This is going to be a tutorial on how Ztech works in Factory Town Tycoon. So, first off, let's start with what isn't Ztech. So, what isn't Ztech? It's just your normal conveyor line. So, we have our output right here that's signified by this barrel in our crane. This barrel is filled with some stone. And we go into our sink, signified by this barrel down here. So say this is a mining drill mining some stone, and then we have our barrel that's collecting it. So what can happen with a normal conveyor line is sometimes under heavy lag, you can have leaks where some stone will come out to the side. You can also have a lot of collisions build up with the stone, which ends up resulting in even more lag as items start moving slower and eventually they just start piling up next to each other. And they just start compounding the lag over and over again, and that's just going to greatly increase your item count and make your lag even higher. So, what Ztech aims to do is it aims to stop items from existing altogether. So right here, I have two different Ztech systems. The one I'm standing on right now can also be made to be completely vertical. I just have it as a sideways demonstration for demonstration purposes. And if you're wondering how to get sideways tech, it's pretty simple, but you do need to find someone who already has it, because the glitch to make sideways has already been patched. But basically, if you ever see someone with a sideways conveyor or anything, run up to it, go like that, and come over. Then you can put it over on your plot, and then you're going to have sideways. And depending on what plot you are on the map, you'll get different orientations. There's 3 different orientations that you can have. One facing to my character's right, one to my character's left, and one in front of my character. We don't have one facing the back because there's no plots facing that way. But if you see on screen right now, I'll pop up a little picture of where you can get the directions from which plots. Alright, now that's been up for a bit, let's go more into some Ztech. Alright, so here is 2 of our Ztech systems, alright? So first, and probably the simplest and easiest to build, is our barrel and crane system, where you just simply put a crane in front of a barrel and stretch it out, and you get there. Now, the things that suck about this is its bandwidth can be pretty small, so you're really only going to be able to fit one crane on it, and it is a bit more housing expensive than the system right here, and it is also relatively slow Ztech speaking. But cranes are incredibly useful, so if you're using this to just go like a tiny bit, it's totally worth it. And really, it is possible to have multiple items going through one system, but say I had a stone in this barrel right here. If I said also had sand coming through, if the stone was still in here, by the time sand came up, it would get stuck on top of this barrel right here, and then you would end up having a clog and a leak, which is just going to ruin your factory. But a really cool thing about this barrel system is it can actually get reversed if you just incorporate a little bit of logic. So if you have, say, a lever that just turns one set of your cranes on and one set of your cranes off, you can have storage cranes going each different direction. And with that, you can have a multi-directional Ztech system, which it could be useful for transferring items from one way to another. You would be able to have multiple different conveyors. You'd have to make sure that there's only one item going at one time though, otherwise you're going to get clogs. But you could save on conveyor space, which might in the long run end up saving you more housing than it actually costs. I'm just going to turn these on real quick. for a little demonstration later. Alright, so then we move on to our sorters. So our sorters, now you'll mostly see these being stacked vertically. We call those sorter towers, but you can also stack them horizontally like this. And these are basically instantaneous. Like, you can have like 10 of these stacked on top of each other, and if you blink, you'll miss it going up. But these have incredibly high bandwidth and are super fast. And they're a bit more housing, but a bit less housing. They're also cheaper to make. But I do find these are a bit more technical to build. But basically, if you want to make a vertical stack, what you're going to have to do is you're going to need your sorting conveyors, obviously. And then what you're going to want to do is you're also going to want to get a short logs wall. And then you want to place a floor on top of that. Now I'm just walking you through the blueprints right now, but you'll get the idea. And then you'll be able to place one right on top of this. Now currently, oh, it's being a bit funky. Well, that's fine. But you'd place one right on top, right level with it. Now you can move it around a bit, it'll be fine. This pickup range is pretty good. As long as the item is in there somewhere, you'll pick it up. But that's what's really nice about these. They're basically instant and they can go so fast. But they most certainly can never be used for multi-systems unless you were to add more conveyors to it. So say, sorry, just being a bit finicky. Say you wanted to have another one right there. You could totally do that. Or another one right there. You could totally do that. So in this system, you could probably have 3 running right through there. And that would enable you to do multiple items at the same time. Of course, it would be costing you more housing. So you really only be saving in space-wise, not really housing-wise. Whereas this one, if you go one at a time, you can actually save housing compared to that. So now for a little demonstration of all of them working at the same time. Forgot to turn this one on. Sorry about that. But as you can see, this is completely instantaneous. And you see lots of drops over there. Then this is just shuttling them along decently slow. This one's already done. And each of these is moving 5 items. So, like I said, this one, it's pretty slow compared to this version of Ztech, because these are stuck at 1 second. You could go pretty big with these, maybe go for like a mega storage, running like 3 cranes at once. That'd get you pretty quick. But at the end of the day, cranes are going to be your limiting factor. And as you just get longer and longer, this is always going to be better. But you can see, so this one basically ran at like 4 items just going. So imagine you had a bunch of maybe like 5 of those lines going back and forth. You're already going to be at 100 items. If you replace that with all these, you'd get 0 the entire time. Which is why Ztech is so important to figure out, especially in some tricky situations. Now over here, I'm showing you some practical uses for Ztech, alright? So right here, you can see some of these conveyor sorter towers, alright? So you have a crane that drops off coils right here. Coils go up and into here and into that blacksmith. So this is completely surrounded by conveyor sorter towers. Then you can go over to a little system right here where you're using some barrel Ztech to create the tin. So I'm not even letting the tin come down this conveyor because that'd be creating drops. Now this is pretty impractical, but if you want to have absolutely zero drops and run like 10 plots worth of factories at once, this is something you'd actually have to start looking into doing. But there's that. And then I haven't found a way to instantaneously pick up the smelters from right when they spawn in. So you do have to let them run for a bit there, unfortunately. But then you can also have more drill systems like this, where you drop in the wood here, bring in the firewoods here. Drop in the firewalks there, drop in the drills here, and then you're just gonna get your copper right out into there. Then this system, it's a bit more practical. I have all the iron getting instantly put into these barrels, and it goes all the way back. And then I have the firelogs, and also I don't think I set up the drills here, but you would also have the drills going through that one spot. And that will oh yeah, not these. Oh yeah, these drills are set up. So the drills are right there. But the fireworks and the drills going through there. And that basically enables you to make sure there is no collisions whatsoever, because a lot of lag comes from collisions. If you just have 400 items moving around on the conveyors, you'll be pretty much good. But if you start to introduce a bunch of collisions, that's when it starts to get pretty bad. But that's a pretty simple overview of how Ztech works. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I hope you have a wonderful day, and bye-bye.